Good day, Naked Vocalist episode 4, Chris Johnson here.
Steve Giles here.
So we're back again, and this is our first specialist episode, and we're going to build this one around, can we have a big ooh? Ooh.
Ooh.
Hitting high notes.
Ooh.
Because let's face it, is that not the thing you hear that people want to do the most?
The most. Whenever you ask a question in a lesson, what can we help you with? What's the deal?
Well, there's this note.
Oh, it's the high stuff.
And God knows we've been there.
And still are.
And so that's what we're going to do the bulk of. But we've got, as always, we've got news to bring you up to speed on, which maybe I'll hand over to you, talking about the Sir that we know.
What a start. This week, it really is worth mentioning that Sir David Stroud, I love that, is in the UK. He's doing seminars and workshops and one-to-one lessons. If this is the first time you've heard this podcast, you wouldn't have heard the last podcast when we interviewed Dave, and we basically spent an hour chatting with him about him.
Absolutely.
And it was just it's a great insight. Him being in the UK is a fantastic opportunity to spend some real time with the man. And in fact, by the time this is released, he will be on his final stop in London.
That's right.
Which would be awesome. And so if you want more information on that, then please go to shedlightevents.com, because they are hosting all of the events in London concerned with Dave Stroud.
That's right. And if unless I'm mistaken, it's the 16th of November is the actual day he's there doing all kinds of stuff. So there's that. That is very exciting, and he's a terrific teacher, so please get along to see him.
Vocal wizard. So what else is going on there, Chris?
Well, what is next? Next we have, lots of news. Why don't we start with your news? What's new with Steve Giles and his projects?
Wow, we are way. There's tons going on at the moment. I think this week mainly is all about Love Soul Hype, which is it's a singing school for young singers that we've created. Myself and the team have spent years immersed in teaching groups and teaching young people with some other awesome organisations. But now we're just looking to create our own kind of thing. It pulls together all of our skills to create something that would just really benefit these young singers. Mm-hmm. So on that, we're looking for singers who are probably a little bit further down the line in terms of ability and focus. We'll be covering pop, musical theatre, so that these guys can really get an idea of which singing journey they want to take in their life. There'll be loads of technique involved, obviously, and other cool things just to help them get on as a singer.
So the more experienced sort of young singer is going to be suited to this, because it's going to be a bit more technical.
Yeah, obviously we want to we'd like to bring everyone on, but initially it's going to be people that have just got a little bit of an idea of what's going on in terms of technique and their voice. And in that, we've got some auditions. I think, the audition's going to be passed by the time that this is released. They're in Southampton next Wednesday. But please get in contact, lovesoulhype.com, to find out about some more, or if we can arrange something else, if you know any young singers.
Cool.
But really excited about that, actually. It's going to be really cool. The vision is just to create some really great singers together and just see what we can produce.
And don't you, I'm sure you feel the same, and that's why I'm looking forward to seeing how that pans out, because when you get a young singer in the teaching room, or even when you see them on stage and you hear, maybe they're 14 or 15 years old, and you think, if the rules of practice are so, and that if someone practice reasonably regularly for 5 years, they get pretty good, and you look at a 15-year-old and you go, when you're 20, you're going to be phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Do you ever see that?
I say that all the students.
When they come in, you go, oh my God, if you did this 3 times a week for 4 years, you would be taking over the world, and you wouldn't even be, you'd still be a teenager.
Yeah. And that at that moment in time, you're just thinking, please do it, please do it.
Yeah, please do it. I'll do whatever. I'll give you whatever you want.
Sweet.
I'll bring in presents for you. Just stick at it, all right? But that's an exciting project, man.
Really is. But okay, so that's me. What about you? What's going on in your life?
I thought you were never going to ask me. Look, I've just released a new website, which I designed my own on iWeb, which I'm sure many people out there would sympathise as that being like pulling teeth, really. Really hard. I'm not that great at graphic design, so having this person design me one that looks really great I'm very happy to announce that is up and running at chrisjohnsonvocalcoach.com. And that has started my blog on there and a bunch of other things, and I will keep adding to that. And so that's half of my news, but I've coupled that release with announcing that I'm teaching now in London. So I've got a new studio that I can teach at in Hampstead. So that's quite an adventure that's going to be. A completely new location with a completely different set of aspirations from the singers. I'm sure that the demographic in different cities just brings about such different people.
Sure, yeah.
Cultures, genres. People who may be even closer to being professional or even not. I'm not sure what to expect. So I'm just looking forward to settling in.
I bet you are. Yeah, that's it. It just opens that whole new world for you, doesn't it? In terms of teaching, which is awesome. So yeah, sexy website,
new studio.
It's all going on.
I think I've got a kettle and everything. It's brilliant. So there's that, and we've got some other news that we're going to share with you over the coming weeks. Some of it's to do with us providing some material for upcoming music magazines as the Naked Vocalist. So that's really great that opportunity is going to open up for us, and we'll tell you more about that soon. But we are going to now get into the bones, as we like, the meat and bones of this particular subject, which is hitting high notes. And I think we just came up with this one just because it probably is, out of all the singers you meet, going to be the most talked about topic, desire of a student. And as you mentioned earlier as we were talking, that when a student comes in, they just come out with it, they're just, I can't sing high. And sometimes, if I talk about some female singers, I get female singers come in and in this quite high voice, they say, I'm an alto. And from knowing what speaking voices kind of sit like, I'm pretty sure that singer is not an alto. And an alto is, for those who are confused about that, an alto is somebody who would sing the deep part in a choir. A lot of ladies call themselves altos because they sing deeply. But a lot of singers don't have a deep voice. They just have a problem getting up, getting high in the range. And so I'm not usually convinced when someone says I can't sing high notes.
Self-diagnosed.
Yeah, but it's really true. It just takes a lot of practice, which is exactly what we're here to do. I mean, you must hear that in the guys, right?
Yeah, I do, yeah, that's it. I mean, for men, it's exactly the same. It's kind of what you know. And most young guys, I speak to myself here, but when we're younger, we do like the sound of we like the sound and feeling of being manly. When we get the low voice.
Oi!
Yeah, when the voice breaks, and and staying around those pitches and being low all the time. It really helps us get good at being low.
Yeah.
And speaking and singing low because we sing there all the time. And we're cool.
And speak there as well.
Yeah. So if we continue to be a kind of manly man as we grow older and don't let go of that, we are ingraining that fact that we are a low singer all the time. And I hear that a lot, as you said, when singers come in. The quiet work that I do, a lot of guys come in and say, I'm a bass. It's like,
they might come in and go, I'm a bass. Which is like,
I'm a bass.
I'm a bass. You are not a bass. But no, I totally agree.
Yeah, but true basses are actually really rare. And like you said, you've got this thought in the back of your mind of, is that just what you know? And I'm sure we can work you out of being a bass at some point in your life if you want to stick with something.
Yeah, and you'll end up realising you're a tenor.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And but I can totally sympathise with that sort of, that pressed down deep speaking voice, because I know when I was at school, I had this sort of flippy voice. My nickname was Mickey Mouse, so that's haunted me. So that's nice.
Living on.
Yeah, living on, because I had this like crazily high laugh. Yeah, and for years I actually pushed my voice down really too far, and it did for a while sort of screw up my singing voice. My singing voice didn't seem to be very just really unruly. Yeah, but because I was off the level.
Because you are well known for your high laugh.
The one that sort of takes wallpaper off walls and stuff. I am sorry to everyone that's around me.
But do you feel that embracing that feminine side did help your...
Man, yeah. When I speak to guys who are trying to work on those high notes and addressing where their voice actually sits naturally, which is what we're kind of just talking about briefly, is that, you talk to those guys, and I would use the fact that when I came to terms with the fact that I actually sound a bit camp, right, my voice is a high tenor's voice, then my voice started working really well. It was really efficient. It had loads of power. I felt good as a singer because that was me. This was not me. It was me post-puberty. Yeah. It was me trying to think, right, I'm a man now and I desperately don't want to flip. So I'm going to press it down and keep it there until I was 23.
Right.
Which is just a real common thing. So if you're a guy out there, really explore this subject before you attempt high notes.
So for girls and boys, what we're talking about here is exposure to the thing that we actually have problems with, or facing a demon. It's like, I can't sing high notes. Well, you probably can, but you just need to face it.
Yeah,
and get out of what we know.
And it's full of errors facing it, isn't it?
Exactly that. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about why it's tricky to sing high notes and how we can go about getting through the turmoil that is
the range.
The range, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's where we're at. So I think it's really useful to go into a little bit of sort of positioning about the voice. It's really useful to understand which parts of the voice there are. They're called registers, the top and the bottom, and some vocal signs. So I'll kick that off and talk about the registers. Now, registers are... The bottom register is called chest voice. It's only called that because the vocal cords vibrate and they create sound waves. And those sound waves, they get resonated by a space which is the throat. And those vibrations are felt strongly in the chest. And if you put your hands at the top of your chest and just give the deepest sound you can give, like a la la la, you will feel those vibrations from your throat go down into your chest. And so people call that chest voice. The other register that we're concerned with is the top part of your voice, and that's called head voice. Just to add to chest, by the way, the vocal cords at that point are very short and very thick. And when we get to head voice, the resonance in the voice starts to become dominant in another area, another space gives it energy, and that is the mouth. So when you're in that part, people often feel that in their nose, in their head, some people call it the mask, and that is just resonance in the mouth sort of vibrating through the head. And at that point, the vocal cords, they are a different shape and size. They're stretched, long and thin, to create a higher pitch.
So just to summarise that again, because there's a lot of information there. So the low bottom voice, chest voice, it feels chesty to the singer.
It feels like, you can feel the vibrations in your chest. It's very notable feeling. You know when you're there.
And as you go higher, that then shifts into what would be called head voice.
That's it.
And the sound is actually resonating in the mouth at that point. It's just so we can feel it in our head and behind our eyes.
That's it. I mean, the hard palate, which is at the top of the mouth, is a hard surface, and it does conduct vibrations. And those vibrations on the other side of the hard palate is the nose. And the upper part of the head, and depending on how high you go, it can feel even more different. But all the time, the throat and the mouth, they're the two resonant chambers in the voice that give the voice energy. They are resonating both all of the time. It's just in the bottom part of the voice, it's the throat dominantly, mostly. And when you're in the top part of the voice, it's the mouth mostly. But they both contribute all the time in different proportions.
And you touched upon a muscular change there with the chords.
That's it. If you think about a guitar string, the deep string on a guitar is kind of fat. And so the vocal cords mimic that in the lower part of the voice. They create a deep pitch when they're short and fat like that. But as you stretch anything like a rubber band, it starts to raise in pitch, and the thinner strings on the guitar are also the high ones. So that's how the vocal cords achieve that vibration and that raising pitch, as they have to change physical shape. And then the chambers above it complement that, which is, I think, what you're going to talk about now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, as you say, what we're doing here is just outlining what is going on, so then we can go on and talk about why it's hard.
Yeah.
So just to go into that a tiny bit more detail, it's so hard not to go crazy on this, but we've got like a speciality episode coming up in the future, I think, on harmonics and vowels and the science behind how we create sound.
Yeah.
But let's just go into the tricky part of the voice, because we need to transition through that in order to get to these high notes. So if we talk about the bridge area, the passaggio, People call it different things, but that middle part, it's a good start to say that there is a notable muscular change, as you said, at the chord level, but that is coupled with this huge shift in resonance between the bottom voice and the top voice, again, as you mentioned just a second ago.
Yeah.
But that shift in resonance is one of the main things that makes us feel uncomfortable as we work through that part of the voice. And that's
just because it feels so weird.
Yeah, and it can make us do a whole host of crazy things when we get there.
Like react.
But to understand how, exactly how to fix or improve the way in which we sing these pitches in the bridge and up, it's worth just understanding a little bit more about these two changes. So, here comes the science bit. Very basic. We know that the sound that comes out of our mouth in the form of vowels is a direct reflection of the way we position our mouth and the throat.
Absolutely.
Those two chambers you talked about.
Yeah, and they are what gives those vibrations from the vocal cords energy.
Energy, that's a great word to use, yeah. Because, for those who don't know, in any case, sound always has a source, the thing that creates the sound, but then the sound waves emanate. They come from that source, and then the spaces surrounding that source, they give the sound energy. And it's actually the sound, the shape of that sound, that makes the sound unique and easy for us humans to distinguish exactly what that sound is.
Yeah, so those spaces essentially give the sound character. That energy gives them a particular sound, tone, which you recognise as being something.
Something, yeah. So, for example, if you had a baseball bat in your hand, and
I don't know where this is going.
That's your source of sound,
right?
And you're in a church. Here we go. You smash the wall.
I've got a baseball bat. I'm in a church. I would have thought before I got a chance to do anything, they're going to get me out of there.
Call the police.
Yeah, sorry, carry on.
All I'm trying to say is the sound in a church, if you were to smash the wall of a church, it's going to create a completely different sound to that of if you were smashing the wall in an office.
Or a wardrobe.
Or a wardrobe. Yeah, if you want to use it, if you smash a wardrobe,
that'd be very dead, wouldn't it?
One experiment.
Yeah.
So the spaces around that baseball bat will change the way in which that sound is produced and the colour and the tone as we talk. So,
and that's acoustic science for you, isn't it? And I think Steve's analogy of the bat against the wall is essentially the vocal cords vibrating.
That's it. Yeah.
That's creating the sound, and the space is giving it a particular colour, character, a certain energy profile.
That's right. The spaces give it the profile. And so as an example of that, the chords are the source. And if we were to manipulate one of the spaces in our instrument, we talked about the two spaces being the throat and the mouth.
Yeah.
If we were to manipulate, say, the space in the throat, so by that what we're going to do is change the level of the larynx in order to shorten or lessen the space or make the space bigger.
Because the larynx is the end of the vibratory mechanism, isn't it?
That's right.
It's the start of where the spaces that resonate begin.
That's right. So, as an example, we would say, if we took the vowel E and we had
yeah, so you can hear that tonal change
on the same pitch.
And that's a different colour of the same pitch, different colour of the vowel E.
Just by moving. There are some other things moving there, to be fair, but essentially that was mainly controlled by the level of the larynx and the space in the throat.
You can try that yourselves, by the way. You're adjusting tone to go dark and bright, aren't you? To generate that movement, and you could probably feel your larynx in your neck moving up and down as you did those changes, and that's
great exercise to feel that.
Yes.
Yeah. Go ahead. So moving on, as we know that we can control these things, it means that as a singer we can understand what to listen for in these tricky places, the bridge and upper register, and adjust accordingly. We can manipulate the spaces in the throat and the mouth to create the vowels, which can highly support what the vocal cords are doing, and manage that huge shift that we talked about in resonance. And in turn, that should create a powerful and easy sound.
And keeping with the power, no matter how far you go up.
Exactly that. We've got a lot of control over this situation. That's what we're saying here. So so that leads back to the original question here. High note, the bridge. Why is it so tricky to sing in the bridge and sing these high notes? It's because the adjustments we need to make with these spaces, with the larynx and all the other controlling things that we have here, it gets harder as we get higher. Mm-hmm. The adjustments get smaller. We need to be more precise, and the room for error is lessened. So normally what we would do is just try anything. If there's a pitch that we're having trouble adjusting to, that's when we just get in there and just normally try and do anything to make that pitch happen.
Yeah.
And
there are a few go-to reactions for that, aren't they?
As
in excessive volume, whatever.
Squeeze, yeah.
Any number of things that we can change. It is so tricky in that bridge, because Steve's talked about the vocal cords and we've talked about the vocal cords and what they do and what the resonance how it can behave under controlling vowels. But those two situations, neither of them can work without each other. If the vocal cords react in some way to the changing pitches, and sometimes they just react just because it feels weird, they may tense up, they may jam together and squeeze. That in turn affects their ability to adjust. It certainly affects resonance, and then going up in pitch stops.
Right.
Just the other way around. If the vowel shaping isn't right, if the resonance isn't energized in the right way above that source, then the vocal cords, the source, they aren't supported, and hence find it difficult to adjust. So if your vowel is out, your vocal cords can't work very well. If your vocal cords are out and they're jamming up or letting go, then your resonance isn't going to work well. But when they are both within your control, then you have a vocal cord, a bridge that is easier to negotiate. You have a range that is actually usable.
I think the word there is synergistic.
That's it. Absolute
work
synergy.
Together, hand in hand.
Yes.
So that is a little bit of background, a basic background around what's going on in those places and why it's tricky. Where are those places?
They are, and I think you're going to take the piano at this point.
I'll take the piano, yeah.
For males and females, they're in different spots. And so for guys, if you were to sing songs that got towards the notes E or E flat, and that's E or E flat 4, isn't it?
Correct.
That is where the bottom voice begins to meet the top voice, where this notable change with the vocal cords and resonance occurs here in a very strong way.
Mm. Yeah, and that's where it happens most. That's where you feel the big shift. But as we know,
there's little bits and pieces before it.
Before that, and dependent on voice, it can be lower or slightly higher. With the females, where are we looking?
We are looking at A or A flat 4 above the guy's bridge.
Yeah, great. So they're the pitches there. Any songs that have those pitches in,
then you're going to be experiencing some issue,
some difference. Yeah, and so that's what we're going to be looking at.
That's a lot of songs.
And yeah, I think you touched upon something earlier on about songs and their pitches and where they're placed with male and female, and you could almost say to yourself, well, we know that it's really hard to sing in those places in the range. Why are so many songs written there?
Because actually, and this is quite interesting, is that when you get to that resonant shift, the energy that is gathered in your voice from doing that well is really powerful. It creates such a picture of tone and an energy in the voice that really speaks to people on an emotional level. It's almost like it's the wow notes. You can't get that from the bottom. It just doesn't have that same lift, that same zhuzh that you get from when you're in the bridge. So I think to write songs in that area is to really give meaning to some of the lyrics. And so that's why, whether you like it or not, when you get good at that, you're going to sound amazing, and people are going to be able to connect to your material even more.
Absolutely. Yes, that, as you say, the wow factor, it's the thing that the front row.
Yeah, everyone's looking for the person who really nails that note, who really does it well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's the whys.
That's the background, and it is basic. There's a lot more to that, isn't there? But let's talk about some other stuff.
How
do you even do this? And I think it's easy. It's good to point out that some of these fixes that we're going to go through, they are really quick fixes because you may be close to, almost there, you know, with a bit of strain. And so this kind of thing is going to work for you. But going down the line, really, if we want full success and the ability to be able to get to the high notes with ease and instinctively,
consistently across an entire song.
And you know, and consistently across your whole career, and in any situation on stage where you might not be able to plan how you hit those high notes, it is great to point out that you kind of need a regime of training to get you used to the changes that we've discussed earlier, the changes in resonance and what the vocal cords behave like, so that when you get to those areas of your voice, you're not freaked out by the event that is the bridge.
It takes a bit of time. And so what we're going to talk about here is more quick fixes, popping in and out of that high end, and what we can use to get those one or two tricky notes if that's all we've got to play with.
That's it. And so we've looked at 3 ways that we can do this, okay? The first one is called Vows Substitution. And because we discussed that vowel shapes are incredibly important in shaping the vocal tract to give that sound the most energy and the best tone and support the vocal cords, then we can use vowel substitutions to find that spot better. And there is a blog post that we will link to in the show notes that can show you how to choose a vowel substitution. But essentially what it is you take a lyric, the one that's not working, and you substitute it for another that sounds similar but isn't the same. And that change can often bring about the right event, the right resonance change. And so we're going to look at Adele. We always bring her up because she always sings her songs in the bridge and everyone's always busting their butt trying to sing them. And so we're looking at Set Fire to the Rain and the chorus. Now I have no idea what key this is in, so I'm just going to kind of sing it out as a demo, if you like. And we want to substitute the vowels on the lyrics fire and rain. Now, fire is an R. And if we look at the vowel substitution chart, which is on that blog post, we want to change that vowel for R. And the reason why we've chosen that change is because that change brings about a closing of that vowel. The lips slightly narrow at the corners and that mouth closes slightly. And when you close a vowel often, it brings about a better ability to sing in the upper ranges. For the most part, it all changes when you get really high. And so we're going to swap fire for fire with a U, and we're going to swap rain for rain, and that is a closing of the vowel, but with the tongue. Rain, rain. If you say those together, you notice your tongue goes back and then it goes forward. And those vowel substitutions probably will bring about a better result if you sing that song. So if I was gonna,
what pitch would you choose?
Well, I would choose, maybe let's go for a G sharp for a guy then. So if this vowel wasn't going to work too well, it would go fire. It would sound like that. And
you hear the ah.
Yeah. That vowel is going a bit wide. The tone can sound yelly, and do you know what? That may get so tight that you'll go fa, that you'll even slip off it because it's so tense. And so instead of fire to the rain, we don't want rain going too wide either or too open. So we're going to choose a closing of the vowel. So from fire to fire. Set fire, fire, and I'm saying fire. That brings about a better resonance on that note. To the rain, rain. And so we get that lift in resonance again because we're at this particular point in the voice where this needs to happen. That resonance is becoming dominant in another chamber, not the throat but the mouth.
So you've adjusted physically and the result is a different vowel.
And so that supports the vocal cords as well. You tend to get a bit more energy from your vocal cords if you adjust vowels like that. And you can guarantee that when we say it in our speaking voice, it sounds ridiculous. But up in the song, no one's going to notice. People will notice if that tone goes fire, but they're not going to notice a fire and to the rain. They're not going to notice that slightly closed rain. And if that means that you can sing that tune and maintain good tone, good volume, look like you're in control and enjoy it, then I would use that as a first go-to for solving a song like that.
And so that's the first thing you can go to, and it's probably the least dramatic change.
Yeah,
just modifying that vowel slightly in order to create a different result. On for number 2, the second thing we'd probably look at, more dramatic, more drastic, but it's changing everything into more of an sound when you go to sing it.
We're talking about blending vowels here, aren't we?
That's it, yeah.
Adding that to stuff.
Yep, adding it to stuff. The vowel substitution you talked about is, you could say that it's related more to the lip positioning and the tongue positioning. This is a result of controlling the other main controller in the voice, which is the larynx that we spoke about earlier on. If we can add this sound to anything that we're singing, we know that potentially it's going to make things a little bit easy for us.
Yeah, it keeps that larynx in the right spot and keeps space at the back. Yeah.
So if we were to take a look at another song, which song would you...
A song guys struggle with frequently, just because it dips into this part of the transition, is Stevie Wonder's Lately. Woo!
Oh, what a tune.
Massive fan. And that melody goes from C sharp. It's in C sharp major, the song, and the melody goes C sharp, E flat, E. For the chorus, always start to cry. Yeah, cool. And that's where we're at. And so that's what a lot of people have a trouble with, right?
Yeah, so the word there that you mentioned there is the word start.
Yes.
Because we're in that bridge area on the E. So it'd be, always start to cry.
That's it, it goes a bit, that tone goes out, doesn't it? It gets a bit sacrificed.
Yeah, now if we're taking the second principle that we talked about here, the second tool to change things and make it easier, we're going to add a bit of to our
Yeah.
So
as in what on the word starts, right?
Yeah. So instead of start, it may end up more as sturt.
Yeah, that's right. In speech, but it sounds different when you sing it.
Yeah. So always start to cry.
That's it. Hey, that sounds good.
Thank you.
And there's you're taking that same song on that next melody. 'Cause this time could mean goodbye. When we look at this vowel substitution thing on number 1, 90% of the time, that vowel we choose, and look at the chart for this if you really want to understand, we normally choose the next more closed vowel to substitute to. Like with fire, it was fire, so R to and with rain, it was rain, from A to E. However, some notes in certain pitches actually need to go in the more open direction, and E is definitely one of those vowels that some of you will have trouble with. And so, 'cause this time could mean...
Yeah.
You often hear that squeeze in there where people are going, okay, I can't figure this out.
Just because of the way they're creating the E.
That's it. Yeah. That E is a very closed vowel. If you say E-R, you'll notice that the tongue goes really forward and then really back, and that E really closes on the tongue. And sometimes the voice just needs a bit more space than that to resonate correctly. And so...
what would you do there? What would you do on the E?
We would go, E goes to I, so we would say it like min. 'Cause this time could mean goodbye, and it's actually on its way to I. And so then people may feel like actually that gets a bit more relaxed. It can open up and resonate well. Or as you've pointed out, it may just need a bit more underneath it. Time could mean goodbye, and that's with more
Yeah, so we talked about trial and error earlier on. That's exactly what that is.
Try it out.
Yeah. Lastly, the third step on this, in order to fix a part of a song if you have one, is to completely remove the words and replace with a different sound that may work. for you.
That's it. And this is if it's getting particularly tricky. This is what we go for when things aren't going instantly. And so that, like you've pointed out, with the help of a teacher or experimenting, there may be vowel sounds or words that work well in your voice. Like, have you got your favourite one?
Mum works is a good go-to.
Yes, I love g or n.
Yep.
As being vowels that I've messed around with and help resonance in the bridge for me.
In the bridge, a little higher, 1-1, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That really works well.
They're things you could try. Even nay and gi I've used in the past, but try these out if you're at home.
Literally replace the words for those sounds.
So taking lately, what would you? So taking your favourite one, what was yours? Mum.
Well, yeah.
That's the one.
Always mum.
If, for instance, the other two have not gone well.
Yeah. So then you could even start this right from the start though and go mum.
Because you know what I mean. It's swapping the lyrics out for those vowels is really helpful. And just to give you a bit of background as to why that is, it's because we only have one vowel, which encourages one resonance, one picture of the voice. Other vowels would change that resonant picture and be really off-putting, and sometimes would send it to the wrong place, i.e. the throat or the mouth inappropriately, depending on which pitch you're in. But if you have one vowel, and one that you know works well through trial and error, then you can ensure that that resonance is going to place itself in the right spot throughout those melodies and pitches, so you can get used to maintaining something that is consistent.
Great, yeah, consistency is key. So bearing in mind this podcast cannot be 2 hours long, and it really could have been. The vowel is just one of the things we need to look at, and maintaining that vowel is so important, and that's why we spent so much time on it today.
Yeah.
But there are other things that will work in line with that and need to work in line with that, such as the chord closure, the airflow, mindset, the way you approach everything to do your singing will have an effect, and making all of those things come together is what makes singing difficult.
Yeah.
And actually, we just need to think about that kind of stuff as well.
Absolutely. Right? It all embellishes your singing, and the vowel is responsible for 70 to 80% of the success of notes. So it is a very important thing, which is why we've focused on it. But yeah, like you said, being mindful of all those other things as well, which probably filters into another podcast.
Absolutely. Now we've thrown lots of information into this today. If you've got any questions about any of it or about anything else, obviously fire them through to us.
Yeah, contact your vocal coach even.
Yep. Absolutely.
And we'll try and let some more of this information and more explanation around this permeate out into other podcasts and specialist episodes. Thanks. So that is done for our meet today. We'd love to hear from you and how you got on. Maybe some videos.
If it helped, if you're trying it out, film it. Let us know. It'd be awesome.
Send it in. So that is it. That's our bones done, if you like. And we now have our selection from YouTube to deliver to you, and it kind of embellishes the subject that we spoke about today, in that some of the greatest singers in the world employ singing vowels in different ways to get a great result, as that singing is very based around that, and one of those is Pavarotti. Absolutely immense. He is insane, and him and legendary vocal coach Seth Riggs of Speech Level Singing fame both go into this in a bit of detail in a YouTube video.
And it's worth pointing out there just before is that I'm sure there's a lot of listeners that sing pop, musical theatre, and sometimes often can just kind of switch off to opera because it's different.
Yes.
But actually, it's the same thing. It's the same stuff.
The principles are the same. It's just they're not as deep for pop singing. They are very deep for opera. It goes into such detail and accuracy. And so you can witness Luciano Pavarotti doing his biz in this.
Just this, but they permit you to make very, very noble sound instead of very wide and strangled sound. And it is, in my opinion, the real key of the entire situation. You want an example? No. On F sharp. you can suspect a strangle, If you do I don't make much più fatica. It's easier after 20 years, of course, but the support.
So yeah, go and check that out. That will be in the show notes for you to click onto, and it is just inspiring, and I just love it. He's such a legend. So that's us done. We would like to let you know about our next episode, so you can tune in because it's very exciting. We have Rachel Lawrence on. Tell us a bit about Rachel.
She's most well known in the States for her work in musical theatre and film. So this next episode 5, is really for all you NT guys out there. Those of you looking to audition or take the leap into West End or Broadway, make sure you diarise this one, because she really... I don't think I've come across anybody that knows more about it.
She knows her onions.
She knows her onions. She's been in audition rooms, she's played, she's been the auditioner.
Yeah.
So
and she's a bloody nice girl. So...
And that helps.
And that does help, doesn't it?
So lots of fun. So that's going to be awesome. Tune into that one. But as we just mentioned, any questions for anything else, please let us know. We've got some places where you can find us. If you're on Twitter, it's @TMV Questions. If you're on Facebook, facebook.com/TMV Questions. Actually on Pinterest now.
Wow. And you're responsible for that, aren't
Thank you.
You love it.
I don't even know.
70% of the people on Pinterest are female. Did you know that?
How did you know that?
Social media podcasts, weirdly. And so if you're a guy, I'd say that's the place to be.
Get involved. Hook them up. Again, /TMV Questions on Pinterest. Have a go. I mean, if you don't know what it is, or today could be a new day. You learn experience.
And please, it really helps us to be found and discovered if you kindly leave us a review on iTunes. Just click on the 5 stars, or even leave us some words. It is so helpful, and we will put a link to that at thenakedvocalist.com/podcast. If you type that, it'll take you straight there. It takes 2 minutes, so please help us out and do that for us.
Thank you very much. I hope that you've enjoyed this and learned something today.
And we'll see you next time for Rachel.
Ciao for now.